This is the second part to dividing polynomials. We're going to do a different method from long division, and it's called synthetic division. I think this method is easier. I do like doing long division, but this is definitely faster and easier in my opinion. The steps for synthetic division are written right there. There's only 6, not very many. First one, with synthetic division you always use c, which is your constant term, where the divisor is x minus c. And that's important because it should be a minus. So if it's not, if it's a positive, then that means the c is actually a negative. And you'll see what I mean by that in a little bit. Number 2, use the coefficients of each term. Now if you're missing a term, then make sure you put a 0 in for that. And again, you'll see an example like that in a little bit. 3, always bring down the first term and then multiply it by c. Number 4, bring your answer up and add it to the next column. 5, repeat multiplication and addition steps until you're finished. And then the last step, you just rewrite the polynomial in factored form. So again, it's a little simpler because all you're doing is dividing out by the coefficients. But you have to keep in mind that you're dividing by x minus c and that you have to put 0 for the missing terms. So I want you guys to do number 1 on your own. So we're going to jump down and do numbers 2 and 3. Number 2 is 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 divided by x plus 5. Now again, our divisor from step 1 says it's supposed to be x minus c. Since this is a plus, that means that our divisor c is actually a negative 5. Now I always like to put that in the box. Next, what we're going to do is write out the coefficients of our polynomial here. So we have 3, negative 13, and negative 10. Draw this line. You always bring this first term down, so that's a 3 there. And now we multiply. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Now, unlike in long division where you always subtract, so you have to change the signs, you don't have to do that here at all. You're just going to do exactly what it tells you to do. So this is negative 13 minus 15, which is negative 28. And then we take negative 5 times negative 28. If my calculator turns on here. Nope. Okay, well negative 5 times negative 28 is 140. Now we have negative 10 plus 140, which is 130. So these numbers down here are what we're going to use to write our factored form. Now since this was 3x squared, this was an x squared term, we've divided by 1x, which means all of these drop down a power, and this n number here is always your remainder. So the last number is always the remainder. And this part is your factored form. And again, it drops down a power. Because we had an x squared, we divided by an x, that means this is only an x. So our final answer here is 3x minus 28. And since we have a remainder of 130, we're going to add that as 130 over what we divided by, which is x plus 5. So this right here, this is your answer. If you recall, is always called the quotient. And so then this piece here is your remainder. And again, notice how this dropped down a power, because again we were at 3x squared divided by just an x. And so when we divide that, it drops down to just an x to the 1 power. Alright, we're going to try number 3. If you look at number 3, we have m plus 1, and again it's supposed to be a minus, so that means this needs to become a negative 1. Now that doesn't necessarily mean, well, never mind. Alright, so now we're going to put in the coefficients for this term right here, the 3m to the 5th plus m minus 1. Now you'll notice this is to the 5th power, and then we drop down to this m, which is to the 1 power, which means we're missing 4, 3, and 2. So those are the ones we're going to put zeros in for. So to the 5th power is 3. There's no 4. Nothing to the third power is nothing to the second power, and then to the first power is the 1 here, and then my constant of negative 1. Draw your line. I'm going to bring down this 3 here. Now we multiply. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. There's a lot of 3's. Negative 1 times negative 3 is a positive 3. Now we have a 1 here, plus 3 gives us a 4 this time. So now we have negative 1 times 4, which is negative 4. Negative 1 minus 4 gives you negative 5. And again, this is your last number, so this is your remainder. And this right here is your factored form, or your quotient, or however you want to remember it. Now again, like I said, everything drops down a power because we were at the 5th power and we divided by just a single m here, so it's going to drop down to the 4th power. So our answer here is 3m to the 4th minus 3m cubed plus 3m squared minus 3m plus 4. And then of course we have our remainder of negative 5 here. So we have minus 5 over what we divided by, which is m plus 1. Again, this is your remainder, and all of this right here is your quotient. So I want you guys to try number 1. And that's it.